Pyotr Ilyich consists indeed of two alternating plans. One of them is the story itself, the story of Tchaikovsky's life, which is reproduced to some extent chronologically, although it starts with his death and then we return to his birth, and the story develops up to the end of his terrestrial life. And the second plan consists of, let's say, the discussions with the divine, the conversations with God, to make reference to Neil Donald Walsh's series of books. This structure was born out of the regression therapy itself. So I never tried to conceive this book thinking of it as a literary product, because it is not a literary product. This book is not a fiction book. It is, as I have always mentioned and as I have already explained in the introduction of the book, it is the recollection of my past life regression therapy sessions. So the structure itself was born out of the process itself. What I mean is that during a past life regression therapy, we have two main steps, let's say. The first one consists of exploring the past life or the current life, depending on the kind of session the therapist is conducting. So you have the first part when you simply explore that particular life. You navigate through the most important moments that the client lived in that particular past or current life. Thus, the client becomes aware of the most important events, the other characters, let's say, which make part of the story. He or she becomes aware mostly of the emotions he or she felt, the traumas, and so on. So it's a way of remembering the most important events and the emotional impact that this event had on the client. But then the second, and I think that the most important and the most interesting part of past life regression therapy is the moment when the therapist starts the healing itself. When the client is guided in, let's say, a space of light, in the plan that we might call home or heavens, or depends on each one's beliefs, and there the client is has to do some very important steps which are guided by the therapist using some specific techniques, and these steps are meant to create the real healing, because it is not important only to remember what happened, but mostly it is important to meet the characters, to release any kind of emotion that was trapped, that was blocked within us, sometimes for thousands of years. If we speak about past life regressions, when we remember about lives that we lived in ancient Egypt or even in Atlantis and so on. So it is not only important to see what happened, but it is important to release the most important emotions that were blocked, to meet the other characters and to say things that you have never had the chance to say before, and that your soul feels the need to unburden of. It is also very important to understand why you had to live that particular experiences, what important lessons you had to learn. So it is the most important, and I would say the most fascinating part of a past life regression therapy. And in this second part of a regression therapy, it is a very important step in which we meet the higher beings, the beings of light, let's say. And these beings of light might be your own higher self, I mean the higher self of the client, archangels or angels, spiritual guides, or the divine, the divinity itself. It depends on each session, and it also depends on the client's own beliefs, of course. And I think that if I decided to write Being Pyotr Ilyich and to share my own very intimate experiences with the others, is exactly because I wanted to share these discussions in the afterlife. Because if we speak only about Tchaikovsky, of course that there are already a large number of books written about his life story and so on. And of course that maybe in my book you might find some new details, some very personal and intimate details, because my approach was of course very personal and the most intimate possible one. But writing the story of his life was not my main purpose. In the end, as I stated also in the introduction of Being Pyotr Ilyich, Tchaikovsky becomes a case study, if I have to express this idea in a very practical way. I might have chosen another past identity of myself, because I have explored until now more than 30 past lives. So in the end I might have chosen another person, being he or she either a public figure or not. But I chose Tchaikovsky, and I explained in another episode of our podcast why Tchaikovsky. The most important revelations that I had are not directly connected to the life of a composer or a great musician. Most of the important truths that were shared with me, I think that are valid for each human being on earth. So I hoped that while reading my book, people will find answers that they have searched probably all their lives, and that these answers might help them to solve their problems or to search for healing. And so I thought that maybe this book might bring hope, light, love to the life of other people who have problems which might be extremely similar to mine. So exactly this second plane of my book I think was the one who made me decide to share with you these truths that were like a gift for my own soul, to my own healing. And then coming to your second question, you asked me about my relationship with God. I think that I have always believed in God, but it was quite an abstract idea. I mean, I did not ask myself a lot of questions about God. I respected him a lot, like you respect someone who is very wise and maybe older. I had a great respect for him, but I saw him like someone living far, far away in another world, in another plane, someone quite abstract, so quite separate from my own life. Nowadays, after more than 10 years of past life regression therapy, either as a client or as a therapist, I see God like someone very present in my own life. I know and I feel that he exists, and this is not out of a belief, it is out of a practical experience on my own soul or working with the others. So it's a practical conclusion I reached. This is why I think it is such a valuable conclusion, because it is not born out of a belief or out of the education I received home. It is something that was born out of my own practical experience with myself and with others. So I think that nowadays I have a much more closer and direct relationship with God. I know that I can speak to Him, and most frequently I can also hear His own answers. Of course, that it depends on the context and on my own state of mind. But nowadays I know that he's not, he or she is not someone far away and without any contact with myself. On the contrary, I know that he or she might hear me, and and he's close to me, and he knows each second what I'm living and what happens to me and so on. As I am a very straightforward person, probably sometimes too straightforward with my family and with my friends, I also apply this way of telling the things I truly feel, as Sinatra says, to say the things he truly feels and not the words of one who kneels. So I also say the things I truly feel to God. So I have days when I love Him a lot, and I have days when I might be angry or sad, and I also, as each human being, of course, that I have good days and bad days and different kind of moods. So there are days when I am quite upset on Him, and when I tell Him straightforward what I feel about that particular situation. So I think he might be quite amused very frequently of my reactions. But all in all, I think that one of the greatest things that this kind of therapy has made to me, either as a patient or as a client, is this direct and very close connection with what I frequently call our Father, and generally speaking with archangels, or with my own higher self, so with everything that is on the other side, let's say, of our physical world. I think that the fact that you feel sometimes such a great love from the world beyond, or that you receive such important answers and that you have such great revelations, is probably the greatest thing that this past life regression therapy has offered to me.